Hello everybody, this is Cheri, dghsundry.blogspot.com, and I have a question for you today. Have you ever been crafting, made something, didn't really like it, dropped it in the bin to go out with the garbage or the recycling, whichever you do, and walked away from it? And then come back a few days later, maybe a week, maybe a couple weeks, and found it sitting in the trash and go, ooh, I like that. Well, today's card is inspired by just that thing. I, about a week ago, was playing with a stamp set that I have. It's an older set from close to my heart. It is this set right here. I believe it's called Beautiful You. And it's a stamp that is multi-stamping, so that you can get a lot of colors and dimensions from your stamps. So I had been stamping and playing, and I just didn't like this rose. So I dropped it in the little bin that I keep for recycling, walked away from it, and today I walked into my craft room and hadn't crafted all week, and I glanced down and I saw it and I was like, oh, I like that. So that is what today's card is going to be made out of. So I went ahead and I die cut this. Now this set actually comes with the dies. So I went ahead and I die cut the rose out, and now we are going to move forward with the next step. So the first thing I'm going to do is I pulled some Pill Paint distress ink, and I'm going to use that to cut the leaves, or to stamp the leaves. So I'm going to stamp some extra leaves because, well, for one thing, I have some extra flowers sitting around from this same crafting session last week. So I am going to just stamp so that I know that I have plenty of leaves. I'm going to stamp probably 3 sets of these. You'll notice I put them all on the same stamp block and just kind of space them out. I've actually spaced them out probably more than what I needed to, but I just wanted to give them plenty of room so that I could go back in and put the dies around them and go ahead and die cut them. You'll also notice that I am not being super particular about how well the image is stamped. And the reason for that is because I want to do some watercoloring on this a little bit. So I have a watercolor brush already with some water in it. So I am just going to, although that's got, it'll be okay. So I am just wetting my brush, and I'm going to go back over that Pill Paint Distress ink, and I'm just going to kind of go over it with water just a little bit. Now this is not on watercolor paper, so I don't want to lay a lot of water down, but I do want to give it a little bit of a watercolored look. And in fact, I'm going to go like this, and I'm actually going to kind of go outside of the lines and really kind of put a little bit more water than I had planned to give it kind of a shadow around the edge of it. The reason I'm doing that is because I've noticed that with this particular set of dies, there's a lot of white space around the edge, which I personally don't like. And we're going to do something different with the rose when we come back to the rose. But I'm just smearing this around. I'll actually, I think, going to smush a little bit of this Pill Paint on my mat here. I'm going to pick up a little bit extra and pick up some of those inside and just kind of really move that around. Give it just a watercolored soft look. So I'm going to do that on all of the leaves. Nothing fancy, just simple watercolor with distress inks, which with the distress inks and the properties that they have with water, I love that you can do this and be able to use it. In fact, I have recently made a card where I actually used the the distress inks as a paint palette, where I smooshed a bunch of colors down on my mat and actually picked them up and used them to watercolor paint directly from them. So, but this one, what this will do is it will give me a nice little edge, so I won't have all that white space when I come back. So I'm just going to set that aside, let it dry, and we are going to move on. Let's come back to this one as I'm making a mess here. We are going to move on to our next step while that's drying a little bit, and then I'll go off camera in a little while and die cut those. So I didn't do that with this particular piece, and so I don't, as I mentioned, I really don't like that there's white space on there. And so, and I know if I was doing a lot of work, I would probably try to use up some of that ink that I just wiped off, but I don't want it to get on my project during the video. So I'm just setting that aside. So one of the colors that I used in this flower when I originally did it was Wild Honey. I used Campfire, Crackling Campfire, and I believe the other color was Rusty Hinge, I believe. So I'm just going to grab a distress tool, and I'm just going to ink up the edges using that. Now I keep my used ones in here. I don't actually do one for every color. I do one more for the color families. So as long as I'm not too worried about messing up my distress pads or anything. So as long as I have something that's in the right color family, I'll go ahead and just grab it and use it. But see, that pulls off just a little bit of that stark whiteness that was on there. Now again, just remember, I am basically recycling this from the recycle bin. I literally pulled it out of the garbage or the recycling bin when I came to craft today. So anything that I do is a plus on this one. It's saving a piece. Now again, I'm going to just go ahead and wipe up a little bit. I'm going to turn the video off and I'm going to dry those leaves and I'm going to get them die cut, and then we'll come back and we will make a card using these little simple scraps. Okay, we are back and I have all of my leaves cut. I also cut some extra roses so that I could add layers of cardstock to make this pop up off of the card. Now you could do the same thing with foam tape. You could also do the same thing with fun foam, but I just put in 4 extra layers of cardstock and glued them together using my Gina K Connect. So I have all of my stamps ready. I also went around the edges with the Wild Honey off camera, where we just go around like that, and I went around and did that. So now that we're back, now we're going to move on to the card. So I have this little background, and this is a background that started out to be 5x7. I recently purchased the 5x7 jelly plate, and so I don't even know what all colors are on here. I'm guessing it's Wild Honey and Crackling Campfire. There's some stencil in the background that's a really light color, maybe even distress paint. There's a lot of sheen to it, so it may not even be Crackling Campfire. It may actually be paint. I don't even know. It's just one of the backgrounds. I keep backgrounds here, and so I really can't tell you what colors is in this, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking this has got to be paint, because I don't have a distress color that would really show, and you can't even hardly see the lightness of the background of the stencil that I use. So I've cut this down to size, and what I've done is I've cut it to be 5 3/8 by 4 1/8 because I want it to take up most of my card base. I don't want much of a border around my card base. Now I may change my mind and trim off that extra 1/8 of an inch, but we'll just have to see. So now I'm ready to stamp my sentiment onto this base, and so I pulled my stamp positioner, and this set that I'm using is from Catherine Pooler Stamps. It's one that I purchased on clearance from a scrapbooking store that was going out of business, and I don't know what the official title of it is. Let's see if it says. I'm calling it Enjoy the Little Things. I don't really know for sure what the official name is. But I'm going to come up here in Archival Black, and I think I'm going to put it up here. Now, off camera, I did some experimenting to see what I thought about adding some of these extra wisps around the rose, and I didn't like it. So I decided that we're not going to do that. We're just going to use the leaves and the rose. Now you might say, sure, that rose is awful close to the same color as your background, and you're right, it does. It coordinates a little bit maybe too well, but actually I think that it's going to be okay. It gives a really nice fall tone on tone vibe. And the reason I'm using my stamp positioner, rather than doing this with an blot or an ink block is because exactly what you're seeing here. I thought that there was always the possibility that with this being so textured, that piece of paper is really textured, that with it being so textured that I might not get a really clean image if I just did it once. And actually I didn't get a clean image by doing it twice, so my paper must have slipped. But actually it's going to be okay. It's not horrible, or it is horrible. I don't like it. So that's okay. We're going to turn it the other way, right? When all else fails, we'll just use that spot to cover up our rose. And we'll go again. And let's put the magnets in a little bit closer to see if maybe we can keep it from doing that again. So let's try one more time to stamp that image. Sometimes you can cover up your mistakes, and this is the one of the times that I think we're going to be just fine. I'm going to really try to give this a good impression so that I don't have to go back and restamp it. But I just am not getting the deep, dark impression that I want on that first stamp. So we'll try this again, and hopefully it hasn't slipped this time. No, it didn't. Good. Perfect. No smearing lines, no at all. Now, you're not seeing double. It really does have, and I didn't smear it, it really does have extra loops in it. That's the way this is designed. And so, there we go. Okay, so now I am going to go ahead and adhere that to the card base before I start building up my card. So I'm just going to pull my ATG gun out to do this. This paper is a little bit warpy because it was done on the jelly plate, but it's not so warpy that I feel like I need like a super strong tape other than ATG. It's definitely strong enough to handle this particular job. So as I put it upside down. Now I do want to be really careful because, as I mentioned, I just barely have of a border around there, because I just have a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So again, we're going to see that this is not going to be a problem because we're going to cover all of that up. Now I opted not to add extra dimension to my leaves because I wanted them to just sit directly on the card. So I'm going to use my Gina K Connect, and I'm going to put enough down that it'll go down. But remember, if you've ever used Gina K Connect, you know it does not take a lot of glue for it to stay down. You also do have a little bit of play time that you can get, that you can reposition things a little bit. You don't have a ton of time though, so you want to make sure that you are getting it done as quickly as you can, because you're not going to have a lot of time to maneuver things around. So now I'm going to have to be really careful because you see this little bit coming up here. I don't want that to show under my rose. So I'm going to go ahead and play with my rose a little bit, see where I want to put it. And I kind of like that, just like that. Again, it's very tone on tone, and typically I wouldn't do tone on tone, that close to tone on tone. It's also interesting how well my inks match, even though I don't believe that they are the same inks, because these are clearly distress inks, and I'm sure that these are not. So I'm going to just hold this down just for a minute just to make sure that it's connected. And then we have this little card that says "Enjoy the little things," but we're not gonna call it done quite yet. I think it's just a little bit too plain. I think that bling that shine and shimmer that's on there makes me want to add a little bit more. The question is, do I want to add Nouveau drops, or do I want to add a lot of sequins? So let's just see. And you can see these iridescent drops just kind of pick up the colors around them. Know that if you are using something as dimensional as that you are definitely going to have to do either not mail it, or do extra postage, or do it like in a padded envelope or something like that, because you definitely are going to have plenty of dimension, and you're probably going to want to send it hand canceled. Now typically I try to arrange in triangles when I'm doing this, but I am just kind of filling the back with the extra pops. And I really think I like, oh, there were little ones under there. I really think I like the sequins better than the Nouveau drops. So let's just keep adding a few. There we go. Kind of like that. Now, unintentionally, or it really wasn't intentional, what you see here is we're still kind of going in triangles, because we've got a triangle here, we've got a triangle here, we've got a triangle here. So we're still going in kind of triangles, and I really like that. I think I'm going to put one more right over here, and then we're going to adhere them down. Now, again, this Gina K Connect glue, yes, it's white, and you can see that it's white, and it takes just the tiniest amount, but it will dry clear, which makes it so lovely to work with. And I will be honest with you, I've played with this a little bit, because there's nothing worse, in my opinion, putting all that time, putting sequins on, and then opening up the envelope and the sequins are gone. They're buried in the bottom of the envelope somewhere. I know that I have used sequins with adhesive on the back that have definitely done that, or have fallen out in my bin while I was waiting. You know, maybe I had made a stash of cards, and so before I was sending it, I would go back and I would find this set of cards and no sequins, or you could see the little spot where the sequins were adhered, but they didn't stay. It's awful. And these do not, this glue does not do that. I have tugged and kind of played with it, and it definitely does not do that. So I really highly recommend this glue. In fact, I placed an order from Simon Said the other day and ordered 2 more tubes, because I am thinking I'll probably need them for Christmas crafting. So I wanted to make sure that I was not going to run out. So I highly recommend this glue. And no, I get no, there's no incentive for me to tell you that, other than just to help you out as a fellow crafter, because it really is that good. That one was upside down, so you can see I got way too much glue there on that one, but it will be just fine, because when it dries you won't even see it. So there we have. Now I know that there was an extra one here. Actually, I think I am going to put it there. I wasn't going to put that one there. No, I'm going to leave it off. So there we have it, our finished card. Enjoy the little things, very tone on tone, but I'm feeling all the fall vibes with it, so I like it. It's come a long ways from pulling this out of their recycle bin, hasn't it? So thanks so much for stopping by today. Don't ever forget to give some things a second chance. Maybe you'll decide you really like them. Thanks for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.